Welcome to the Therapist After Dark podcast. Ever wonder what happens when the therapy session is over? Well, we're digging into the funny, heartwarming, and surprising stories therapists have after they leave the office. Join us, two mental health professionals, every week for a dose of laughter, a touch of drama, and maybe a few shocking revelations, because therapists are people too.
Have you ever almost fallen asleep with a client?
So when I first started, one of my first clients was like, my therapist used to fall asleep with me all the time. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Who would ever do that? I get it now.
Well, what was it about the client?
Oh, I actually wasn't that client.
Okay.
I think it's really easy for me to get sleepy in session when the client is just talking at me.
Yeah.
They're venting is fine, but when the whole session is just venting and talking to me, I don't like talking to people. I'm here to do my job.
Yeah.
I want to be able to give interventions to see if we could solve something.
I'm just here to do my job. I'm a therapist.
I don't go out of my way to talk to people ever. I don't. Am I talking to maybe with my friends?
Yeah, it's yeah. I feel like whenever you're passionate by whatever the topic is.
But other than my friends and I guess my clients, I am really not that. I don't seek talking to people so much. It's not my favorite thing to do. I'd rather be by myself with my dog or be painting or be cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I found when I'm being talked at and I'm just and I cannot get a word in edgewise and I can't even get the client to redirect. That's when I get the most sleepy.
Yeah. I
mean, I've never fallen asleep. But I get it now.
That's totally energy transfer. So they're an energy vampire. They're just sucking that energy right out of you, out of the room. Yeah, it would happen with me, and I've never fallen asleep. Absolutely not.
Right.
But definitely
that heaviness.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm really take a sip of this tea. Take a sip of this tea. What can I do?
Something stronger.
Say, let me pretend to journal. I don't know. Was during, especially specifically in room was one client. She was sweet. She was 15, but she would just recount her days in high school, and it was just none of it mattered. And obviously, it mattered to her, and I have empathy for that. But these stories, I was just and they'd be just yawning and trying my hardest to read the what is it? The internal yawn.
Yep.
Okay. Do you guys know how to internally yawn? I'm just saying that's definitely a skill that you acquire as a therapist.
Yeah. And then I guess on the days where sometimes you just don't have the energy. Those hard days.
Yeah, totally.
Again, being a woman, I think, did we touch upon it? I don't remember, but being a woman and your life is run by your cycle. It is. We're very cyclical beings, so we're not going to have the same energy level every week.
Totally. They don't teach you that in school either.
Not one. First of all, I didn't even learn about my actual true cycle until I was in my late 20s.
Right.
So
seriously, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now that I'm aware of it, I love to actually bring it into session.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Not so much with the male clients.
Yeah.
But with my female clients, it's very easy for me to say, it's the luteal phase. My anxiety is up, and I'm a little drained. So I might be a little bit more reactive to your anxiety today, or taking on a little bit more than usual.
Yeah.
Or I might be a little bit more or less energetic today.
Does that information help your clients navigate how they talk to you? Do you think that information would hold them back from saying what they really need to say?
I don't think so. I think it's just important, at least for me, to let them know where I'm at. So if I don't seem as receptive, it's not because I'm not receiving it. It's just I'm at a lower, I guess, frequency or something. I think my clients appreciate it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't had any feedback yet.
Yeah. But it probably is a way for me, almost a little safety behavior too, a way for me to make sure that I'm not perceived as a bad therapist.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think we definitely want to not necessarily control the narrative, but just do our best to maintain what's the word?
Maintain
the integrity of what we're creating together in the relationship.
Right.
That's not really the words I was looking for, but whatever, we'll just use those.
Okay.
That's just be what it is for now. If something else changes, I'll let you know. Yeah, wild. So okay, so one thing that I know has been difficult aspect for me, because we talked in the last session, of course I would say that, episode or two, about how, you know, it's really important for us to do our work. So that way, like, cause we can't take our clients further than where we've gone.
Right.
And so, you know, what's difficult, I feel like, being a therapist is finding a therapist.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Have you run into that at all? But how do you search for one? I don't see anybody. I just see myself. I journal. I do that too, but.
Yeah, the state that we live in is a difficult state. I think, unfortunately for me, all the good therapists that I meet are my friends.
Yeah, I know.
And not to say there are plenty of great therapists in this state, but there's not a lot of like resources and schooling to pump out more. I'm from the New Jersey, New York area, so you're gonna, yeah, and even you, like being from California or Texas, wherever, right? Like there is just so much more options. Here there's not. I don't know, and that for me, like that already what word do I want to use? This happens to me all the time, like just in life in general. Like with my sessions too, I'm like there's a word, but I don't know what it is.
Right.
I blame COVID. My word finding, yeah. Oh, ADD. What was I saying?
You're talking about how finding a therapist, there's not a lot.
So it's discouraging, I think,
Yeah.
to begin with. Maybe in this state, maybe I'm using that as an excuse. I'm not really sure, but I period of time where I was really searching for one, and I kid you not, I went through like 4 in 1 month.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such hard
And
for us
then
though.
I had one tell me like literally he was like, it was a man. I think I would actually ever whatever. Anywho, he's like kind of like, he didn't say this, but this is what he was like hinting at. Like he was like, I think you like already know like more than like what I'm trying to give you. And I was like,
Well,
okay.
thanks.
And that was my last. And I was like, yeah.
Yes, I don't need your help, but I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah. And he kicked me. He didn't kick me out, but he was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm like, well, okay. I was like, okay. This is okay. So
have there been any part, like I'm curious because I feel like this is what I would do is like I would challenge what they were saying, and instead of them being able to like meet me in that challenge, they'd just be like, well, you think that you're fine and you clearly have all your answers.
So he would agree with me. He'd be like, oh yeah, actually that's right. I'm like, no, I'm not here to be right. Like it's not my
I do.
So and then he eventually was like literally like 4, not even 4 sessions in, he was like, yeah, he's like, I think you're like good.
Thanks.
That's
how I feel.
So much.
It's not how I feel inside.
So I think my workaround, which might sound a little crazy, why do I always make that disclaimer? It might sound a little crazy. I don't know. I've been really diving into a lot of like training, like online, with therapists that I really like with anxiety and OCD, and then I actually have like I signed up for this anxiety training, just like world, I guess. Where there's consultations and stuff like that. I feel like being able just to talk to another therapist, at least about cases,
is supportive.
And I feel like that kind of compensates for me not always having a therapist. Like I haven't had a therapist here in a while. Which sucks. I did have one really, really good one, but she got pregnant, and then we kind of like fell out of touch. I started my own thing, and then like.
Do you think she's practicing anymore?
I'm sure she is.
Yeah, but it just doesn't feel like aligned anymore.
Yeah.
I get that. I mean, that's why I feel like right now, especially, you know, there's part of me that wants to go back into therapy because I go in and out, you know. But I really love coaching too. Like I love my coaches, like my mentors and stuff. And it like I feel like as long as you're getting that perspective from somewhere and you have the ability to process it with someone you value and you trust and you respect, there's goodness in that. You know, I don't, you know, not that we shouldn't still have places where we're doing our partner work, but like sometimes it might not be traditional therapy for us, you know, because it is so difficult for us to find therapists ourselves. It is hard for me to find somebody who I think is as good as me or better. You know, that's really shitty to say, but it's just period.
I was like the biggest workaround to get there.
I know you were. Just say facts and facts.
It is hard. It's so hard. And it's really discouraging when you do go to a therapist and they
kick you out.
They kick you out. But they also like don't even, because I'm very upfront, like I am a therapist too. Like this is like the kind of like mind frame that I work from.
Yeah.
What do you work from? Oh, what do you
Eclectic.
mean?
Yeah. I do it all.
Okay. Or the best is like when a client comes into therapy, I'm like, so what modality did your therapist, because they're coming from another therapist, so therapists usually use like a core modality and they throw in some things, right? And you're like, what? I just sat there and talked to them.
Right.
And I was just like, no. I was like, well, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, what can separate coaching from therapy sometimes. Like when I'm utilizing therapy like at 100%, I'm very structured. Like sessions are very structured. There's a goal to be met, like what is like 1, 2, 3. But that also flips after the work has kind of been done, and then I feel like I do go more like into like the structure's kind of gone.
Yeah.
And then we could sit there and we could talk a little bit more, like I guess freely.
Yeah.
But I'm all about, and that's because my cognitive behavioral therapy like framework, right?
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I feel like I think coaching's a part of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like they already overlap, which is why for me switching over
Right.
was easy.
Right.
I didn't feel like I needed additional training to be a coach when I already have it as a
I
therapist.
think you cannot be a coach unless you have training.
Right. I mean, people would beg to differ in the industry, but my like experience, unless you've done 10 hours of your own coaching, like, and you've been a mentee or whatever for that long, and now you have so many tools in your tool belt, and then you can help. I could see that as like, you know, like an honorable mention degree or something.
Yeah.
But like, there's so many people out there who are just like not credentialed in any capacity,
It's scary.
and just teaching, you know, whatever, and they don't realize the harm they could be doing.
Right.
And it's so funny when people actually rarely ever ask me whether or not I have a degree,
Right.
even.
Right.
So,
but even as a therapist too, they
Yeah.
don't even. Yeah. They just they're looking for help and they connect with you and.
yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
well, she clearly has an office, so I'm just gonna show up.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
are you sure you don't want to know where I went to school?
Yeah.
or
Like,
what
I
I
want
did?
to tell you. Like.
Yeah, I've earned that.
I
damn
worked
degree.
so hard to get here.
But as far as like the difference goes, like I feel like for your framework, because you're CBT, it is very structured, and my coaching programs are really structured too.
Right. You have a clear goal.
Yeah, and I would say honestly, coaching programs or structures are CBT based. If you think about it,
Yeah.
like we kind of talked about like belief systems and things like that, and that's basically what you do.
Right.
And that's what I do, but I just do it from a different lens, you know.
Yeah.
But it's still this kind of structured framework. And also it's goal led. I think that maybe that's the difference. I know there are goals in therapy, but it's like, I think we talked about this last time. People will come in with their identified problem, and then we discover it's actually not that at all.
Right.
Versus in coaching, people come in for a problem and we solve that problem.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say that's kind of the difference, but it's so hard for me to tell the difference.
I know.
I'm pretty sure I'm just doing the same thing.
I'm pretty sure, since like meeting you and like learning about what you do, I'm pretty sure half the time I'm coaching. Not more than that. But do you think, I mean, the way you do coaching, I don't know, I'm bad at giving compliments sometimes. I don't know why, because I'm really bad at receiving them. But like I feel like the way you do coaching should, like, people should follow you. How you do it, like, it's
I see what you're
like
saying.
you just do it so well.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm not saying that because you're my friend and I know you, but coaching was always like a scary thing to me, and then I met you and I was like, oh wow, this is what real coaching is.
Well, it's so funny because honestly, like, I felt the same way about coaching too. It's like these riffraff, these non-degree people trying to teach them blah 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 or whatever. So I had like such a negative perception of coaches, and then I had a couple good coaches, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it, and the population felt a little bit more aligned because at that point I'd been burnt out on doing such intense trauma for so many years.
Yeah.
And not that I don't still work with it, but it's just different now. And I don't know, I've been the same. To me, I'm pretty sure I still technically do therapy. I still do coaching, but I don't tell anybody I'm a therapist. I mean, they know that I have the training.
Right.
But that's not my capacity, and that's very clear on my coaching agreement. And if it ever crosses that boundary where I feel like it is like no longer my scope, I'm like, here you go. You need to go here. Or a lot of my clients will have both.
Yeah.
which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah. How does that work when you have a client who's coming to you for coaching, but then they also
Have a therapist? Well, at first it used to kind of give me the ick. I'm like, well, like you're gonna be dual-minded. You're gonna have two different perspectives coming at you, and like I don't want to derail anything you're doing in therapy with what I'm teaching you as a coach.
Right.
So like at first I thought it wouldn't work in tandem, but what I've discovered is that because coaching is such I mean, not that therapy isn't also a luxury, we'll say, but there are systems and things in place where you can get it covered.
Right.
Versus coaching, I'm not on any panels,
Right.
and people pay for packages versus just single sessions. So it's a fucking luxury. It is, you know, and an investment. So I find that people will have a therapist to supplement the times that they can't be with me.
Okay.
You know, if they could afford me all the time, they would, but they like, because they can't, they like have a therapist as well. And so far it hasn't been in conflict. Yeah. But it's not my recommendation.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like either you do your therapist and then you have me.
Right.
But I can't stop people from doing what they want.
Yeah. 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 I don't know how I would feel about that.
Yeah, I've had it before even as a I've had the reverse happen to me as a therapist too, where I was giving therapy to someone and then she had hired a coach as well. And I remember kind of telling her, I was like, you know, I think you should just focus on the coach and what you're learning there, because maybe you feel like you're not getting what you need from me at this moment, and then come back to see me, you know, whenever you have time. So I think I remember cutting that off.
Yeah.
You know, giving her space to do that, because it can be too much. Like sometimes it's just it's so much information. People are addicted to therapy. Right? I have a therapist. It's like kind of like catchy these days. It feels like sexy and fun.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go see my therapist, and that's great. But if you're addicted to that person where you can never move on, you need to have those conversations too.
Yeah. I mean, again, whether it's a therapist or a coach, right? The whole idea is to work with someone so they can take those tools, those conversations in the real world on their own, right? It's not to be with that person forever.
Right.
You know, and I think a lot of people get stuck.
They do. Because I mean, you're just so wonderful. I just want to hang out with you all the time. I just want to get all my information from Angela. You know, like, and they just will come to your office for years and years and years. And that's great and everything like that. But, you know, and I feel like the same thing with being a coach now. It's like, my hope is that you won't stay with me for years.
Right.
My hope is that it will only be like, you know, if we can really do this well, like max 6 months, and then you're kind of done until something else comes up, and then you want to like work on it again, you come back.
And I think a lot of people forget that. Like you could stop and come back.
Yeah. Right.
You don't have to do it continuously.
Right. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as a therapist, I was kind of like normal to see people for years.
Yeah.
You know, because it's so much slower than coaching. That is my perception of it. Because coaching it's like, okay, we got 6 weeks, let's do this. And I feel like CBT is kind of like that too.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I've got to log all this stuff in 10 sessions. It's all you get. We're gonna move through really fast.
Yeah.
But there's this like openness or this availability for them not to reach their goals. Towards the end of the 10, even though you want to at least get some SMART goals done, the main goal doesn't have to be like completely. We'll just call and ask them for 10 more sessions if we can. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just reapply. In coaching, it feels like if they don't get what they need in that 6 sessions, then I didn't do my job at all. So there's a little bit more pressure.
Yeah. Insurance.
Oh my gosh. Are you on any panels? I don't even know.
Just one.
Which one?
Blue Cross. Yeah.
How do you feel about that? I've just heard a lot of horror stories about.
It's been great.
Oh, that's
it's
awesome.
so easy. Yeah.
That's great.
Like so easy. And there's like one sub plan that's like a little finicky. They're great. They're easy. They close to what's
what actually worked. Yeah. They're so ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
That they won't pay us what we deserve if you go through insurance. Like I can understand maybe you paying a monthly subscription or whatever to be a part of the panels, but you should get your full fee.
Yeah. No. I mean, you could like fight it, but they never give you the actual full fee.
It's wild.
Yeah. But they are the highest paying, so that is partly why I went with them. But they're also easy. They don't give you flack. Like they don't like. There's some insurances that are like, is this person suicidal? Like, no. Like, then they don't need therapy. And I'm like, well.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. Especially like that when I was doing intensive outpatient too. Like the higher levels of therapy, like because you technically they pay out more. But unless that person's like actively suicidal and like homicidal, like they're like, we're not paying.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Yeah. But that's why I appreciate Blue Cross, because they're very lax, and I could take it past just those like, I guess 6 to 10 structured CBT sessions, and I
Yeah.
could really like, take my time and break it down and not have to like rush through them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I feel like that's the one thing that's difficult sometimes about this career is like you feel like you have to rush the process, even though we know innately you're not supposed to rush the process of healing.
Right.
But we're like, feel like we have to because
Right.
people are like, you know, powers that be are telling us that we're supposed to, like whatever structures we've created. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, healing's crazy. What's like one thing that you feel like you have to constantly check in with yourself about that like you're healing?
So in the past, it was definitely some emotional like regulation. Like I was quick to anger, but learning through really after school, learning through learning, learning. I really learned to change the relationship with my thoughts. So being able to slow down that reaction. And now, so like that has been at bay for a while, but now it's the intrusive thoughts.
Oh yeah.
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 It's the same concept, like just slowing down and changing the relationship to the thought. But yeah, I guess yeah, some emotional regulation and just dealing with the intrusive is that a word?
I don't know.
Intrusivity. Yeah.
Your thoughts, yeah. You're like, get out of here, stop that.
Oh my god. Yesterday I was downstairs, my dog was upstairs, and I didn't hear him eating his bone anymore. So I said it out loud. I was like, he's dead.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I'm having an intrusive thought. My dog is dead. And the person I was with was like, he's not dead. I'm like, do not reassure me. I was like, just let me work through this. And I'm like breathing. I'm sweating. My heart is pounding. I'm like, this is such a real intrusive thought. Like I truly think my dog is dead upstairs.
Wow.
Yeah. And I, practice what I preach. I just let it come through. I let myself feel all the emotions. It got back to my body, went back to what I was doing. And before I knew it, my dog came running downstairs. I was like, oh, you're not dead. Cool.
Why didn't you just go check on him?
Because that would have, that
would
is
have stopped the process.
That is the worst thing you could do in that moment. If you have an intrusive thought and it's telling you your dog is dead, you need to go check if he's alive. If you go and check if the dog is alive, you're letting that intrusive thought win, and you don't have control of those thoughts anymore. I'm not letting the thought control me.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
You're trying to school me. I see her. Yeah.
Instead, I learned how to deal and tolerate that distress that thought. I mean,
I hear that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And this is what I work with my clients with OCD and stuff like that. So, I guess this is why I'm also saying this is like a newer thing that I've been doing. When I hear those intrusive, distressing thoughts come up, instead of reacting to them and doing what they want me to do, I'm really slowing it down.
I see.
It's so fun.
That's so funny. Well, that's powerful. That's powerful. Like my like, okay, you have the intrusive thought, you are with it and you're conscious about it. So exposure therapy, have the thought and expose yourself to what you believe is happening, but what it's not happening.
Yeah.
And then you notice that, oh, this is false. This is false. It's a false narrative.
Yeah.
But I can see from your vantage point too how that would probably create.
Right, exactly. It would just reactivate the trigger of my dog is dead.
Yeah.
Like, my brain was right. I reacted this way because I was right. Like I really truly think he was dead.
But he isn't dead.
Right, but my brain made me think he really was dead. So by not checking on him, I didn't like reinforce that belief.
Guys, I hope you guys are taking notes. This is our anxiety therapist. She is CBT proficient, and she will help you with your intrusive thoughts, y'all. Do not come to me for this bullshit.
Well, we all have intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
we let them go. Someone check. And the person I was with too, they're like, "Are you like okay? Like just go check." I'm like, "No, like I can't. Like that is the worst thing I can do in this moment." You're like, "Why?" I'm
I'm
like,
just gonna sit here and sweat.
"Go to therapy." Like you're really like not okay. Like you're sweating. Like you're breathing really deep. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm reacting as if my dog is dead right now." So yeah, I'm not okay.
True.
But it will be okay. He just came trotting downstairs and
oh my gosh. Okay, well yeah, now I am bringing up and recalling moments where that has happened to me, and I did the same thing, and I worked through that internally because I knew it was false. That was the only way that I could sit with what it was, right? Like I knew that it was just some thing I was co-creating based off of my anxiety or trauma or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
But that's actually a really tough thing to, I guess, teach.
Yeah, because the anxiety is so intense that you want to alleviate it as quickly as possible. Yeah. Well, in those moments when I have them, because I'll get my intrusive thoughts at nighttime, of course, right? Finally, you lay your head down on the pillow. You're so excited for yummy sleep, and boom, all this fucking crazy shit pop in your mind, and you're like, everybody's dead, everyone's cheating on me, everything's wrong, the world is ending, and you're like, okay, Chicken Little. But one thing what I do for those things, I find anchor thoughts.
Okay.
So, you know, one that I've noticed that works every time is gratitude. So if I'm having those moments, I literally just start counting off all the things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my pillow. I'm grateful for my sheets. I'm grateful for my pup that's at the edge of the bed that I can still hear breathing. And within like 5 minutes, I'll fall asleep.
Yeah, but you're doing basically what I just did too.
Absolutely.
You're not feeding those thoughts.
Yes, but I don't just sit with the thoughts.
You don't feel that distress tolerance.
No, and that's what, so like what I'm working on to build my capacity for is like nervous system responses now, right? So what you're doing, but doing it preemptively. Instead of waiting for a trigger,
Right.
Just expelling that energy through body-based practices, whether it's breath work or EFT is one of my favorites, and like just dance even can be really great, moving your body, exercise. And movement. But yeah, I'll do that and try to make that a consistent habit. And what I've noticed is when I do that, or any somatic based practices, my tolerance for stress is just so much lower.
Because when you're in your
Or
body,
so much higher rather.
Right, when you're in your body and out of your head,
Right.
You're more in that like social engagement stage, and that's when your nervous system is at its best.
You guys, I really hope you're taking notes. This is some good,
This is some
juicy
free
stuff.
therapy.
Yes, you're welcome. Now you there's a tip jar if you'd like to add a couple dogs of bone in here and just saying.
But I love what I do. It's so fun.
It is so fun. There's like so much, like I think I mentioned this last time, just creativity in it. People may not understand that, but it's so creative.
Yeah, it is.
Understanding the human psyche and like what it needs in those moments is like such a creative endeavor.
This
It's so funny. You don't want it? Here.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, imagine if I sat like this in session.
Okay, that would be a little
This would be a little odd.
Yeah.
This is the most comfortable way for me to sit ever.
Oh,
I sit on stools like this. I sit on a counter like this. I'm like a little perch
on the counter.
I don't know. I'm weird. Your therapist or coach should be a little weird.
They should.
Yeah.
Because if they're not in their work, they're not authentic enough.
Right. They're not allowing themselves to be themselves, right? And that's a problem.
Ooh, okay, so if you were to give people advice about like how to choose a therapist, what would you tell them? Say they're trying to look for a therapist for anxiety or trauma.
I would say check in with your body. How is your body feeling?
Like when you're in the session with them, or what about before?
So I do, well, that's interesting because I do all my inquiries like over the phone.
Yeah.
So I'll prompt them to like actually check in with themselves, like how are you feeling? I'm not gonna say in that moment like, what does your body feel like? Because if we didn't do that work, they might think I'm weird. I don't know. Or like, what are you talking about?
Let them think you're weird.
Yeah, that's true. But I always say like, let's meet in person and see if it's a good fit. Like I think it's a good fit, but let's meet in person.
Yeah.
Because I have that. I know you don't always meet you meet virtually, so they don't get. So specifically for anxiety, I want them to really check in with how their body is feeling, where they are, and even if they don't really know what that means yet, because a lot of people don't. Like when I'm like, oh, like what's going on in your body?
Yeah.
Like, what's the sensations? And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like I'm fine. I'm like, yeah, I know you're fine, but is your heart beating a little fast?
Yeah.
Like, are you a little sweaty? Are you a little clammy? Are you rigid? Are you tense? Is your tummy kind of grumble? Whatever.
Yeah.
So, and again, as I'm older and I've been doing this work, just in my life in general, if I can myself and is not regulated, I go. Like I'm not staying around people that make my body feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If your body's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
like your thoughts are just gonna follow that.
Right.
And it's not gonna, like, you're not gonna be in this open receiving state to do the work. So I always tell people to check in with their body.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know when people, because like, I feel like a lot of people don't even know how to search for a therapist, you know, and they'll ask like, well, what do I even look for before because like nobody, I think we're in such a culture where everybody wants a quick fix, right? They go on Instagram and they like get all their therapy from there and it's great. But then the idea of actually, what is it, like dating a therapist feels difficult. And so I just always recommend like just date a couple therapists. Like it's okay. And yes, you may have to pay for like a session or two before you find a good fit, but like it's worth it, you know? And always looking for people who specialize in what you feel like your identified problem is like super important. Because like not everybody's a good trauma therapist. Not everybody's a good anxiety therapist. That's like one of, you know, you're like, how do you work with couples? I'm like, oh, it's easy, it's fun, blah, blah, blah. I do not know how to work with anxiety. I don't like it. It triggers me too much. Clearly, you gave me some tools. I was like, no, I reject that. I'm going to go to gratitude and just, I'm not feeling those feelings. So, how do you do that?
What do you mean? How do I do what?
Work with anxiety. When you also feel like you have some anxiety, how do you work with it too?
Well, the thing with anxiety, it's very solvable.
It says who?
It's very solvable if you're willing. Like, I think we all go into therapy thinking that we're willing to do the work. Like, the anxiety work is hard. It is. Yeah. I mean, all the work is hard, but it's solvable. It's very clear and cut.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times are the flaw in working with anxiety. People love to like tell their anxiety stories, and that's sometimes, but those anxiety stories, like you stay stuck in those stories.
Right,
those narratives, exactly. So you're not, it's to kind of use those narratives as a way to like justify not doing the work. When really it's like, sometimes I'll be like, I don't want to hear the story.
Yeah.
The story doesn't matter right now.
Yeah. People get really I say that all the time.
Yeah. It doesn't matter right now. What matters is what we're trying to do, which is we're trying to build this distress tolerance. We're trying to literally tell our brain not to react this way next time.
Yeah.
By choosing the opposite behavior.
Yeah. It does not feel solvable to me.
To me, there's is a way to solve it. It's very clear cut.
It's so funny. Trauma feels like a walk in the park to me in comparison to anxiety. Oh yeah. Give me trauma stuff all day long. Because it's the same thing. It's narratives, it's stories, it's pairing certain like a stimuli with behaviors and reactions. And of course there's anxiety in trauma. But for some reason, just the word anxiety, I cannot. Tell me that you need trauma you need to solve. I got you all day. So God bless you, honey.
We hope that you enjoyed the peek behind the therapy room curtain. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the podcast. Until next time, remember, life's a journey, even for your therapist. Take care and see you next episode.